Okay, hi everybody. This is Digger Dave Beeler and my beautiful wife Shelley, Shovelin Shelley, recording for us here. We've been asked, how we clean our bottles, and we're just going to show some real basics on this is how we do that. There's a lot of different ways you can clean bottles, but we're just going to go right into show what we do. And normally we clean off the worst of the stuff outside when we get done digging. We knock like the big dirt clods like this. We knock those off outside. But today, since it's in the 20s, we had to bring the bottles in because they freeze and break if we don't sometimes. So we had to bring these in the house. So the first thing we really do is just kind of get the worst of the dirt and the crud off of there, okay? And then what we do is we just run the water almost where it feels cold to the touch. You don't want it hot. You can get a little bit warm, won't hurt them any, but you don't want hot water, okay? And this is just almost, it feels kind of cold to the touch, but that way it doesn't stress the glass. Because old glass that's been in the ground for so long, it gets kind of, kind of sketchy. Sometimes the temperature change can get them. So again, dump the worst of this stuff out. Come in here, fill them up, water. Now, sometimes I just use regular water, but if you want to, you can use some dish soap, but don't use very much. Just put a little tiny bit in there, because if you don't, a lot of your little small bottles like this one, it gets soap suds down in there really bad. It's hard to get that out of there. So, anyway, you can soak them if you want. We generally don't a whole lot. Like that one ain't too bad, so that's the first step, is just, getting the crud off of them, just so you don't pile up so much in your water. That's the main thing. See, these ain't too bad. So we just put water in. I just kind of keep an eye on the water so it don't get too hot. And you don't want it ice cold. When you're washing these bottles, your hands will get freezing cold. And little ones, boys like those. And on this one, for example, you can see it's got a little bit of the violet ink in there. Now sometimes you want to preserve what's on the inside of the bottle when possible. I'm not too worried about this one because I don't want somebody thinking that it's an odd color. So we're going to go ahead and clean that one. So let me just soak it down in there. It's got a little bit of dirt on it. So. Alright, so anyway, that's what we're going to do. We're going to get these bottles soaking here, and then we'll come back here in a few minutes.
Okay. Alright.
Alright, first thing, a lot of the wide, big mouth bottles are the easiest to clean. So you use brushes. You can show these brushes if you want in here. I lay kind of brushes out like a surgeon in here, all the different things. There's a knife to get corks out and stuff. Big bottle brush, one's for small necks, one's for real small necks, and one's for the tiniest of all to poke stuff down in there. But anyway, there's just a brush assortment. You can look up on the internet and or on eBay and probably find brushes. We put these together and scrape and scrounge. They're all from different places. So what I always do is start on a big one. You don't want all the water all the way up to the top. And we just come in here with a bottle brush, run that around there a little bit. I don't spend a lot of time on these because we dig so many bottles, and I'm not, saying that or anything to be crazy, but it's just, you don't want to spend a whole lot of time on them. So we just rinse out the inside. This is just a regular scrub brush. You can see it's pretty well worn. In fact, we're probably due for a new one, aren't we? But anyway, I can just kind of get it wet. Scrub away from your body, because if you come back, guess what? It's spraying all this stuff right back onto you. So it's just a little bit of common sense. You just kind of rub it away from you like that. Scrub the bottom a little bit. Come around the neck. Then you rinse with about the same temperature of water that your other water is. And we just rinse them out. That one doesn't have hardly any rust stains on it, as you can see. So that one just put in the drainer. All right, turn them upside down. All right, let's do a little smaller neck bottle. You can see how the neck's a little smaller. But I use this kind of brush. If that brush will get down in there, this baby bottle brush is a multi-purpose brush, and you can get that down in the necks of a lot of these. And again, you kind of look and see down in there where if there's some stuff, some dirt on the inside of there that a brush will take out. You just kind of run it down in there. It's not rocket science. You can bend your brush however you need it. Get down in it. Go back and forth like that, up and down, around. Alright? So you can see it only takes about 30 to 40 seconds. Drain the water out with the dirt and the mud. Goes down into your container. And I stress that if you're using a sink, you need to use an old tub or something where you get all the dirt and the sediment goes down to the bottom of it. You can take it out and throw it outside or whatever. So again, use your brush, come down, rub the stuff off the outside the best you can. Just using a motion that, again, don't spray it all over the place. By experience, you learn that, you know, if you come up here and you're going like this, well, guess what? It's going to spray all over your window or wherever you're at. So again, rinse. Don't take a whole lot. And always look at it. Okay, now this one, there's a little bit of rust stain. See right in here? I don't know if you can see that. Here's one of the little tricks we use, Shelley and I do. We use these, what are those called? Brillo? Not Brillo pads, but yeah, they're Brillo, I guess. It's copper. It's copper wire. It's a little softer. We start out using that. Okay, and you can see it. It usually gets that brown rusty stuff off of there. See, it's taking that off of there. Okay. Now, if that don't work, here's plan B. This is steel wool. And this is about a medium grade steel wool. You can get it at hardware stores, probably Walmart. You can buy a package of it. And we don't get the Brillo pads with soap in them because it just ridiculous amount of soap suds in there. You don't need that. So this one, I tear off a little piece of it because I don't want to waste the whole thing at one time. And you got to be careful. You just want to ball it up like this in your hand, kind of roll it around a little bit because there's little wire ends on there. And using bare hands, it can poke you and get you and stuff. So this is kind of a medium grade. You can use a smaller grit or a larger, however you think. So if that copper don't get it, we come in with some steel wool like that. Okay, and then just go over the bottle. You get the brown stuff like that. See on that neck? Just kind of rub it in there, and that'll usually take most of that off of there. Where we live here in Illinois. And let's rinse it off and see what it looks like now. The inside again here. Alright, so that's looking pretty good. I feel like we got all the stuff on the outside off of there that we can get. And there's some stuff on the inside. And I got about everything I can get with a bottle brush on that. So we're going to call that good enough. And that's about it for now. I'll talk about the rest of this later on, okay? So again, put that in there upside down. Let's do one a little bigger, like a big tall bottle. See, like that? Again, pour just a little bit out, because when you push your brush in there, it's going to slosh it all over. Now on these, I'm going to use a bigger brush. Now these are kind of hard to find, but you can find them. Big long brush, alright? That'll get down in these big long bottles. And you can't get one with an end that's too fat on there. It needs to be where it can get in the neck of these long neck liquor bottles, wine bottles and such. So then we'll kind of go back and forth in that, down near the bottom, swishing around. There's a lot of dirt on the inside of that. Okay, you get the lower from the half down with this long brush. Okay. And don't take too long to do that. Now I'll stick it back in the holder over here. Then I come back with my handy dandy smaller brush and I'll bend it just a little bit so I can get in the shoulder here. And go back and forth in there and around like this, sweeping it, around the bottle as I turn it. And then kind of on the out, do the neck. Alright, and that's probably pretty good. And then we drain it. I mean, this is pretty common sense stuff. It's nothing. Probably not telling you anything you don't already know. We're just showing you what we do. There's some steel wool. See, again, it's got this brown rusty stuff on it. Quite a bit in there. See all that? So we'll take this steel wool and go over that a few times. It will not hurt the glass. You can scrub and scrub and scrub all you want and it ain't gonna hurt. See how it took that right off of there? Works real good. It's a little trick. Alright.
But it will take off iridescence if you don't have to use it, you don't want to, right?
That's correct. That's a good point Shelley made. If you got a bottle that's got some real pretty rainbow iridescence on it, you do not want to rub it with steel wool because it'll probably take that iridescence off. This bottle didn't have anything like that, so we were just cleaning it. So there's some on the bottom. Let's get that off of there. Alright, now let's rinse and see where we're at on this thing. And most of these bottles, well, the ones that we're showing today are pretty much 1890s at the oldest, up to around 1915, 1920. And the bottles tend to be annealed a little bit, or it means they were a little bit better control in their glass by then, and it's not quite as volatile as your older bottles from the 1840s and 1850s and 60s. They weren't annealed as well, hardened there at the glass factory. Okay, one little spot there. Okay, so see, that one looks pretty good. We got that one pretty clean. There might be a couple little spots there, and again, you can just take your steel wool, run over that. Sometimes there are little scratches, so. Alright, so that one's pretty good. That one's a little taller. I don't know if it'll sit here very well, but we'll try it. Alright, now let's do a little small thing. Like here's a toothbrush that we just did. Okay, and those are easy. You just kind of run your brush over a little bit. And if there's something you want to preserve, you got to watch and be careful. This one there's not. You know, the bristles are pretty well toast. So we're just going to go over that thing and just clean it off with our brush. That's good enough. See how long that takes? About 20 seconds. It's done. Here's a tough one. Here's a little small neck bottle. Sometimes these are a little more difficult. So what we're doing, it's got dirt on the outside. So I'm going to take and keep it over the water, use my brush, spray the dirt and stuff down into the water. Okay? Just like that. So now the outside of that's pretty clean. It lets me see what's on the inside. You know. So here's a different little brush. This is real handy to get down inside the necks of these small bottles. And again, see the brush, you can bend it. You can get in that neck. And this one ain't really too bad. It's not got a lot of dirt and stuff in it. So I'm not going to worry too much about that one. So let's just dump it out. We just got lucky on that. See how the soap suds get in there? If you use very much soap, man, it's a lot worse. You have to drain them out a lot. So, and the soap really ain't going to help you all that much. People talk about using cleaners and soap and everything else, and we don't bother much with it. You know, we just clean them. Alright, now after they've been soaking in here a little bit, they've drained out pretty good, so we'll set them over here on paper. Alright, set them over here. That one's probably pretty good too. Let's get him out of there. Alright, now here's that little ink ball, that little cone ink I was talking about. And again, it's got some dried ink in there, and a lot of times I would want to leave that in there. So you'd need to take a little small brush, real carefully get in there and just take the worst of the dirt and stuff out of the bottom. This particular one, I on purpose want to get that out of there because I don't want somebody buying that bottle and thinking that it's this color. So we're going to sell this one. So, and it may not all come out anyway, but we're going to try to get some of that out of there. All right, dumping it out, and you can see it's not going to all come out. But that's alright, we'll just clean it anyway.
There's a couple of people saying, yay, it didn't come all out.
Didn't come out of there. Well, anyway, and it looks kind of cool. So as long as people understand that it's an aqua bottle, it's not actually that weird color. So, but see how long that takes? It's not long at all.
All right. Let me find a real small one here. Now there. Okay. Here's an example. Here's a pottery bottle. Now stoneware, I should say. This is one we just dug in our last video, and you can see it's got a crack in there. So I don't want to spend a lot of time on this, and you can see on the inside it's really crusty, dirty. So all I do with that one, I'll come in here and get the worst of it out. Just use my brush, get the dirt, the big stuff that might come out later, and that's it. 5 seconds and it's done. It's not clean. Who's ever going to see that on the inside of that jar? You see what I mean? Unless you're going to use it as a mug or something.
That's gross.
I know, that's gross. Okay, see all the rust on here? That's old rust stains. Most of that will come off with steel wool. See? If you rub on there with that steel wool, going different angles and stuff, it comes off pretty good. Now this spot here probably will not. This one looks like it's really crusted into that. Alright, see that spot right there? That's a pretty bad spot, so I'll talk about that here a little bit later. Let's get this stuff out of the threads. Again, using your brush cleans them threads pretty nice. Yeah, I hope you can see some of this, maybe give it a little bit of ideal, save you some elbow grease. But this steel wool is really nice. It really works well. Okay, so there's that. Okay, now this one I am going to decide to clean a little bit more on the inside, and I'll explain why here in a moment. And get some more of this out of here. Okay.
Now, your steel wool, do you try to keep it dry though, or it don't really
No,
matter?
it don't really matter on the steel wool. And most of the time, it gets wet, it stays pretty good. Now if you lay that up here and it dries, you come back to reuse it, it gets all rusty and dry and crunchy. So that's why I always tear off a little small piece that I use, because you don't want to waste a whole pad. You know, because if the whole pad gets wet, you may not be able to reuse it a second time because it just gets so rusty, and that's not good. So on this one, what we're going to do with it, now it's pretty clean, but it's got some rust spots and it's got some on the inside. I'll show you a trick later on here what we're going to do with that one. So let's leave it in there for now, temporarily. Okay. I'm trying to find a little small neck bottle here. They're the hardest. Here's one. Okay. It's a little amber slick bottle, little hand-blown medicine bottle we just dug. See how narrow the neck is? You can't get the big brush in there. It just won't go. And some of these other ones, it might go, but then you might not be able to, if you get that,
it out.
Yeah, if you stick that in there and you force it in, and when you try to get it out, it's like, and it pops out, but it sprays all over you, and you don't want that. So you got to find a smaller brush. That's why these are so nice right here. I think I got these off a buddy of mine, Russ Butler, down in Savannah, Georgia. So I don't know if Russ still selling brushes or not, but I'm sure somebody is. But all right, you just get that little brush in there, you go around it like that, up and down, around and round. Sounds like a song, isn't it?
Yeah. Seems like a lot of people at the bottle shows carry brushes and stuff. You'll see a table of them sometimes, or
That's
at
right.
the malls at a bottle guy's mall booth.
Yeah.
That's where I've seen a lot of them.
Yep. And when you find brushes, get several of them.
Yeah.
You know, don't just buy one. These are like $1.50 or $1.25. Buy like 10 of them, because that's what we've done. You know, we got a supply of them, and because you will use them, and use the nylon. See how it's kind of a little stiffer, little nylon. There's some of them that are, I don't see any over here. Well, here's one here, for example. This one ain't nylon. This is that, I don't know what you call it, rabbit hair or some crazy stuff. But look how scroungy that gets. You see that? It's not very durable, and it just gets like an old mangy dog, man. Just see the difference? Yeah. All right, enough of that. But I don't like those. We like these nylon. Oh, good. All right, so that bottle is pretty good. And here again, it just depends on what you want, how important that bottle is to you. It's still got some stuff in there, but I mean, it's a $2 or $3 bottle at top, so we're not going to spend a lot of time on those. versus a bottle that's a real nice one, which unfortunately we don't have anything to really brag about here to show you. Alright, well, here's a really good one. No, it's not too good. But it's just a Brahma seltzer, but again, wide mouth, easy to clean. Love these things, man. Run your brush in there, run it around a little bit, up and down, and see them bristles get it out pretty good. Now, did you watch also? Oh, I was going to show you this. Okay, another little trick. Okay, you're down in here, you clean the bottle. Let's say it's got a whole bunch of dirt and filth down in here, and you pull your brush out. That's the trick. Now, if I pull this straight out, it's going to spray. Even though you think you can't see it very well, it's spraying. So here's a little trick of the trade from Digger Dave. All right, stick the bottle all the way down underwater and pull your brush out under the water. See that?
Oh.
No spray.
Now I know why he wants me to record. I'd
No
be showing you what not
spray.
to do.
Well, and I'm sure I'm forgetting a lot of little things because we do this so often, but okay, so you clean it off, rinse it off, keeping the water again, it's about close to the same temperature as possible, even on these little cheap bottles. So that one looks pretty good. There's a little spot there. You just take your steel wool. They run over a little bit. Sometimes I'll go over a little bit anyways, make sure. Alright, it looks pretty good. It's good enough. Leave it in there. Here's one that's a taller, sort of narrow neck bottle. It's got some dirt in it. Let's see if our big brush will fit. Alright, and I'm having to push it a little bit, but not too bad, so we should be able to get that out of there. But see how it's taking that out right in there. And we go back and forth. There's a spot right down here. Let's see if we can get that. I don't know. That one may not come out there, but yeah, it's looking like it's going to come out. See? Alright, and making sure there ain't any down here in the corners. And corners is where crud tends to congregate. Congregating crud. Alright, so that one looks like it ain't too bad right now. And again, here I am. See, I'm starting to pull it out and it's going to spray out. So try to put it back in the water. Throw it out down in there. And then drain it out because it drains all your dirt. Your mud goes into that instead of down the drain or somewhere else. And you can see it's still got a little spot in here. If that's on the outside, see how the soap's, and we just used a little tiny bit of soap. And if you don't get that out of there, it leaves a residue stuff in your shoulders. So let's go back in there and make sure we get the rest of that soap out of there. Shake it around a little bit. Okay. Now there's still this unsightly patch right here. And if it's on the outside, we can usually get it with a brush or steel wool. So we got that one clean. Alright. So now that one, we didn't get it all. I don't know how well you can see that. Can you see that stain right in here? There's a stain right in here, and I think it's on the inside.
Okay.
Alright, so that's good. We'll look at that one later. Let me just make sure. Use our steel wool. Sometimes in my eyes I can't see as good as I used to see, so we use the steel wool. And let's see if that took that off of there. It actually did a little bit, so that was probably a lot of it on the outside, but there's some on the inside. Alright, so we'll talk about that here later on in the video. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and clean some more of this stuff. We're just showing you an example here of how a lot of this stuff cleans. Let me show another thing here. Here's a lid, okay? That one's a real easy thing, like lids, small objects. Again, your brush is so handy. I think this is a dog cleaning brush or something, isn't it? I'm not sure.
I have no idea.
I'm not sure what it is.
Had
but
it
again,
forever.
think about when you start doing this, not to go back and forth too much. Now, sometimes I do, and I'm not thinking about it, and it sprays all over me. But go away, move away, like you're sharpening a stone or something here, see? Just kind of rub it while turning it at the same time, flipping it over. Go back and forth like that.
I'd like to see you go take Bay a bath and use that brush on her. That'll answer your question.
Yeah.
It's not a dog cleaning brush.
So again, our steel wool, and that's a nice lid. It's got the crescent moon and star on it, so it's got a little bit of haze there. We try to clear that up the best we can with our steel wool, using that a little bit. And you really don't need much soap on these. I mean, I don't use soap hardly at all, because then you got to get the soap off. But you can see it's clean pretty good. It's got some little haze there, and once they dry, sometimes there'll be more than you bargained for. So, all right, that's. I'm going to do some more of this cleaning, and then I'm going to come back and show you a couple really good Digger Dave tricks of the trade here. So secrets of the trades.
That's what we've been waiting for.
Yeah. All right, and here's an example of a real small neck bottle that's got some stuff in the lip of it, and you can't hardly get a brush in there. It's this little Castoria bottle, hand blown. We got to just take a wire or anything and just push it down in there. See, like this one actually did. It came out pretty good. So that way it allows me to be able to get the water in it. And I just drain it down in there. Okay. Now this one, Shelley found this little bottle. It's a little cute bottle. Major's cement or something, wasn't it?
Yeah.
She found that one encrusted in a pile of stuff.
I never said the name because I couldn't read it.
Oh yeah, it's Major's Cement in New York.
All right.
We'll talk about that later, 10 cents. I think that's cool. But anyway, see how that's just full of crud? I mean, it's packed. So what you do want to do is get it down in the water, let that soak in there a little bit. Now you can soak, now see that one popped out, so it ain't too bad. You take your little wire, run it down in there, kind of dump it out, put water back in it, run your wire down in there again, keep dumping that dirt out of there till you get to the point to where you got almost all the solid stuff out of it, okay? Then you can soak it down in there. We don't leave them soak. I mean, you can if you want, but to me they clean up just about as good, and as long as they got the little bit of water in them. So see, we just kind of run the brush down in there a couple times, pull that out of there, run your brush over it, get all that stuff off the outside, and bingo, you're done. Alright, now here's one that's got a cork in it, and this one's really stuck. It won't just come out. So that one you're going to need a knife or something, and being careful not to pry against the lip here too much, but stick that knife down in there, and sometimes you just got to chip it away. And there, sometimes it'll fall down, like this one's going to go down in there, okay. And then you run your knife around the neck and scrape off the excess. So, alright, now be careful, because sometimes these bottles that's been corked, if you smell them, they're really bad, man. This one's got a little smell, but it's not too bad. But be careful on the medicines, because they can have some bad stuff in them. Not kidding. And we haven't had any in this one, but let's say this is some kind of a sticky, gummy stuff. Don't use your brush on them, okay? Because if you stick your nice brush down into that crud, like cod liver oil or something like that, two of the worst are Scott's Emulsion and Milk's Emulsion. If it says emulsion in the title, leave it alone. Don't get your brush in that, because when you pull your brush out, then you got this awful stuff just stuck all in, and then you got to spend a lot of time using soap and hot water trying to salvage your brush. But all right, and here's another thing. This one, although it's not a very good example, it does have maybe a little iridescence on it, so let's pretend that that's going to be real pretty iridescence under there. And so we don't want to use our steel wool on that, and we got to be very careful even with our brush. So what we want to do with that one is just get it down in the water, okay, and then just use your hand, just use your fingers and lightly rub over that. Can you see just that little bit of iridescence in there, kind of a rainbow color? So take the water like this, just rub very gently with your fingers. See, there's a rust spot that won't come off. So that's what you want to do, is just kind of give it a little baby bath. Just pretend it's a little baby. You're giving the baby bath, and there's his little butt, you know.
Dave's baby bottles.
Dave's babies, yeah, they're little baby. And it's a junk
There
bottle.
must have been something in that
Look at that.
pharmaceutical bottle.
There's something wrong with me, or something happened to my head.
That's
it's just
what
a nothing
happened.
bottle, but it could be pretty. So, and it's a WF&S highly embossed on the bottom, you see, from Milwaukee. But no, anyway. Okay, so we don't know yet. See, it's wet. You can't see it. And you think, oh, rats. You know, I was hoping it'd be real nice. So I'm not going to do anything more with this. Well, I am going to clean the inside. See, it's got some dirt. So what we're going to do is clean that inside. You know, get some water down in there and do that. But then I'm not going to mess with the outside anymore until I kind of see what we got to work with there. And if it is going to be real pretty iridescence, you don't want to scrub that away. Alright? So again, this is not a very great bottle, so I'm not going to spend much time on it. If it was, oh, see, here I am pulling that out of there, and it was going to spray it all over. I don't practice what I preach, do I? Alright, so we dump that out. And see, when you don't use a lot of soap, look at your water. I mean, you got a little bit of soap in there, just enough to break the oily stuff, but just when you're preparing these bottles, watch on the inside. If it looks like it's oily or gooky, do the smell test. And if it's something that looks like it's going to be bad, it probably is bad. I mean, if it looks bad and it smells bad, it's bad. So don't dump that in your water. Because you get that in your water, now it's all over everything. It's all over your hands. It creates a film on your wrist, everything. Every bottle in there, now you're going to have to really mess with it.
Oh,
and, well, it's just a mess. You can just trust us on that, huh, Shelley?
Yeah.
We both experienced it. All right, so let's let that one soak, and we'll look at it later and see if it's anything wonderful or not. But that's just kind of just a couple little pointers on that. We'll talk more about a couple other issues here right away. So we'll finish these up. All right, here's an example of another. It's a little small neck narrow medicine. These are the hardest to get because it's hard to get a brush in them. These little brushes will get in there on some of them. This one's going to go. So you see the dirt in the shoulder there. So I just run it up and down a couple times, switch it around to the other corner, run that up and down. Then the big thicker part of the brush, I spin it. I twist it like this. I get it in the shoulder and I spin it. Okay, and see, that's not getting that out of there very good. Okay, so let me pull that back out. Oh, here we go. See, it's hard to get them out. You have to push back and forward, get more water in there, and push it back and forward, back and forth. All right, so now Shelley's devised this one. See, it's a brush. It's like a hairless dog. And you see it's just got a little puff there on its tail. But see how that bends? And it gets right down in there. Look at that. See, it gets in that, right in that little neck shoulder spot there where I couldn't get with the other brush. See, that got it, man. Yeah. And we go around that shoulder, right in there. See, that's not too bad. Now down here in the bottom's another hard spot. So you take your little puff-tailed dog brush and get right down in there. Well, you got to bend it kind of around a little bit. See, right down there in the bottom. That's still going to be a little tough, but okay. Well, we got most of it. You see.
That helps.
That helps. Now we dump it. Oops! Oh boy! Don't do that. Drop it in the water and get water all over you. All right. Again.
Damage. That's another thing. They're not so slippery, but still could drop them.
And I'm usually a little more careful on better bottles. Sometimes I'm in a hurry. All right. So you can see that one's still got some stuff in the shoulders of it. Not real bad, but if you really want to get that clean, we're gonna show a couple ways to do that here a little bit. So, all right, let's drain that one. That's good for now.
Alrighty.
Okay. All right, now that we've washed these up best we could, I'm going to show a little bit here that some of these, they still got pretty bad rust stains on them. See down in there, there's old rusty stuff on there. Brown rust on most of these. Okay, see the brown rust. All these, some grounge and insulator here, it's pretty bad. Alrighty. Now, what we're going to do, in this bucket, I've got a solution of muriatic acid. And you can get a gallon jug of muriatic acid from like Ace Hardware or good hardware stores, Home Depot, Lowe's, Menards in our area. And you get a gallon of muriatic acid. They use it for in bricks and different things like that. And it's generally about $7 or $8 a gallon. So what you want to do is get you a plastic bucket. This just happens to be from Ace. I'm not promoting them. It just, ironically, it's from them. But 5-gallon plastic bucket, and you need a plastic lid on it. Okay, it's very important. It's got to be plastic because muriatic acid will react and it'll eat metal. So I've already got this mixed, and I'd thrown the jug away. This is a couple months ago or 3 months ago. I didn't know I was going to do a video like this, but anyway, I've just kind of given you an ideal. And what you want to do when you mix this acid solution, you want to put the water in first. You fill the bucket about maybe half full of water, a couple gallons, maybe 2.5 gallons or something like that. And then you pour slowly the muriatic acid into the water, not the other way around, okay? So you put your water in first, then you pour slowly the muriatic acid into that. And you'll always want to use safety glasses when you're doing that. You have to watch for cats that come around because they are known to be attracted to this, and they get real crazy. No, I'm just kidding you. That's just our cat. She's outside wanting in, but all right. And this one's a little bit more full than what I normally like, but in order to cover the real tall bottles like that, I had to add more water to it. But okay, so what we're going to do is I'm going to load these in here, and we're going to show a before and after. So we're going to turn this over to Shelley, and she'll be showing here what's going on. You can see that one's pretty scuzzy too. Okay, now before we load these, I just want to emphasize, wear safety goggles. I never wear them, okay, whenever I'm loading, because I've done this so many times. But you really should wear something in case it's not extremely dangerous, but it's caustic. You don't want to get it on you unless you know, I've had holes in my gloves before and got it all over my hands, and you know, if you got a cut or something, it'll let you know, it'll speak to you. So what you need is rubber gloves like this. We got these real cheap, I don't know what they're called. They're just like rubber gloves, protective gloves, any kind, okay? And I get the ones that's a little longer that come up about halfway to your elbow, because if you reach all the way down into the water, you might have to reach down into the bottom. So that's why make sure the water don't come up over the top of your gloves, okay? So so what we're going to do, we're going to load some of these in here, and it's just, you know, kind of common sense. As you're loading here, you might want to show the detail of the bottle. Hold the bottle just where the lip comes halfway into the water. You see where it don't create a splash? Let me show you again. Okay, be careful lowering it into there, and I always keep one hand dry. So see, don't stick it all the way under the water or it'll bubble. And you don't want bubbles because it might splash on you or on the floor or something. But again, I emphasize it has to be plastic. It has to be plastic, okay? I'll put a couple of these small ones down there to kind of show you. Now I'm going to submerge it all the way so you can see what happens. See how that bubbles? Now it didn't really hurt anything, but you're still, if you kind of are sensitive to smells and stuff, sometimes the acid fumes, you know, with the bubbles. So that's what you don't want to do, all right? Now let me show you again how you want to do this. Carefully grab the bottle, lower it in, holding it aslant, and just let the acid flow into the bottle. See how there's no bubbles coming out? Just fill it up slowly, just take your time. And it's not a big deal. I mean, like I said, it's not like this stuff is like super duper dangerous and it'll kill you if you get it on you or anything. It's just, you know, and some people are against any kind of this. This is what I've used for 40 years or more. Okay, lower that one down there. We're not going to have room for all these, are we? Okay, so let's put the big one in. See how it's already bubbling? See the fumes there coming off of that? I don't know if you can see that or not. See how that's already eaten in there? There's little bubbles coming off of that. It's eating that rust. The muriatic acid reacts with that rust stuff to get that off of there. But this works as good as anything I know, and it's basically the same thing as CLR or some of these cleaners. They're just a much more diluted form of this. And I generally cut it 50-50. You know, like 2 gallons of water, you know, or 2 gallons of acid, or maybe just 1 gallon of acid. It's, you know, it's not precise, but okay, let me see if I can get something else in here. I can get a couple more of these. Put that hutch in there.
But yet the iridescence would stay on there, huh?
Yeah, most of the times it doesn't hurt the iridescence, although I don't like using it. If it's iridescent on there and it's really, really pretty, I don't take a chance on it, but I have before and it hasn't really hurt it any. See the bubbles coming out around that already? You can see it coming up out of there, fizzing away at it. Eating away at it already. Okay, let me reach over here. Grab these two. Okay, insulator's really hazy. I just wanted to see before and after, and some of them clean up good, some of them not so much. But anyway, I like this because it doesn't hurt the glass any. Doesn't hurt it. You can leave it in there as long as you want. If you forget, you go on vacation or you go digging or something, you got a 5-day dig and you're gone, it ain't gonna hurt anything. You know what I mean? Okay, so that one's just about loaded. I don't think I can, I might get that one in there. It's got big rust stains there. Let's see if I can squeeze that one in here. Might be able to.
It looks like it.
It's gonna bubble a little bit, but
Unbelievable.
that's why I had a little bit more in this one than normal, because I'm loading it so full when I do load it. All right, now that's good enough, I guess. Okay, and then what I do is I just let it drip off the gloves. Usually one glove I keep pretty dry, and just drip it off, you know, knock it off of there. Pull your gloves off, and then kind of leave your hand in there while you pull the other one. Just a little trick. Okay, and then one last thing, make sure you get the lid on good. Okay. Just like that. You don't have to clamp it all the way
Just like
down.
that.
Yep, and I just leave my stuff right there. I'll leave some more ready to go for next time, you know. But all right, well that's that. Now we're gonna let them, you know, stay in there now for probably overnight. I mean, you can leave them in there longer; it doesn't matter. But overnight usually takes care of it. Sometimes when it starts getting old, it's more diluted. You know, you gotta switch it out. But this still should be okay. So anyway, let's see what happens when we get that loaded out of there.
Alrighty. 3. Okay, we're back with Dave.
Yeah, okay, now you've been soaking for a couple days, and we pull the lid off, lay it aside, and as we carefully get the bottles out, again, when we drain them, being careful, try not to let it splosh a whole lot, but do wear glasses, wear protective gloves. Okay. And we just kind of drain it out. I let it just drip for just a little bit. It's not a big deal. Then we set them in the plastic container here that we'll be using to wash stuff. Well, there comes Kitty Cat.
Uh-oh.
Hey, Kitty.
I think I can pause this and put her back in the room.
Oh, she's okay for now.
Okay.
As long as she don't drink any of this. Okay.
Kitty, kitty. I know, you want me to hold ya?
Okay. So we're just basically just showing. Now the dog's jealous. She wants to come out too. We had to put our dog upstairs, so she won't come down here. She gets jealous of the cat, though. So, all right. So basically, all we're doing here is just dumping the acid out of here and putting it back into the container. Like I said, you can reuse it for months and months. And usually, when it really gets dirty and nasty, then you have to empty it out and just change it again. But so that's what we're going to do. We're going to get all these bottles out. So that's what we're doing for now.
Alrighty.
Okay. All right. Now once we got the bottles in the container, we're starting. You know, I'm just got to get regular water in here. And again, make sure that the water is not real hot. Don't use hot water. You don't have to use ice cold water either, but pretty close to room temperature, all right? And then what we do is, if you fill it up too much, all the bottles will start floating around like this, as you see. So I usually take a couple of them out of there. Okay, I'm just showing for demonstration here, all right? And then as I fill these, I just kind of revolve the container around like that. Fill them up. It's a lot faster just fill them straight from the tap like that. Okay, and then I bring in another one, fill it up. Bring in another one, fill it up. Yeah, it's just common sense stuff, okay? Then as the water goes around, a couple more in here. Get these up here, keep revolving it around so that I can fill the bottles up. Alright, now when we do that, okay, first thing I'll start out with is the stoneware thing here. And again, the water, it's just rinsing it off. You don't have to scrub, the acid just comes off in water. You can see the little rust spot right here. Now a lot of that's not going to come off, but we use the copper pad first because it's a softer, don't hurt your fingers as much. Alright, now some of this is going to be stained in there. See that stain, there's nothing you can do about that. See the rest of this stuff that comes off, some of it just took it straight off without even rubbing it. See right in here? You just take that and scrape it in there. You might even be able to get it off with your brush here. So, okay, so that one's basically finished. It don't take much time. The acid does most of the work. All right, and then on this one, you see the brown rust up here on the shoulder?
Yeah, I couldn't get it back there on that jar.
Okay.
This one I will.
Yeah, I dropped my pad here, so let me go in here and grab another one. There's some steel wool, okay? And you just take your steel wool, you just rub it on there just to finish it off. It's already been softened up by the acid mixture there. And any place where there's brown stains you can see, you can get them off of there. So you can see how much cleaner that bottle is compared to what it was. Okay, now let me get back and just go through the brush here in case there's any little spots that I can't see. And a final rinse. Okay, and it's done. Now, I don't know how if you can see that bottle, see how much cleaner it is. See, there's still a couple little spots there. I could take a brush and clean that probably on the inside a little bit better, but that's good enough for our purposes here. All right, and then the Saxoners Bitter Quill bottles, you can see the rust that's on there still clinging to that. And you just take your steel wool, kind of rub on. You ain't going to hurt the glass, so don't worry about that. You can scrub all you want, and it's not going to scratch or damage the glass at all on these kind of bottles. So just kind of go over it a little bit. And sometimes it doesn't get it all. It's just kind of ground in there. But that one looks pretty good. And again, we're just doing this pretty quick. See, we're not spending a lot of time on this, so however much time you want to spend. Isn't that pretty though, that whittled effect, the crudeness of the glass? I don't know if you can see that very good. But
Yeah, I think we can.
yeah. But again, you put them in upside down in the container here. Once they've drained a little bit, we set them over there on paper. Alright, here's this insulator that was really heavily stained. I'm going to use a brush on it first. Kind of get the worst of it off. Spinning it around as you go. Okay. Alright. And then take the steel wool. See the little brown spots? You kind of just rub on those with the steel wool. And it'll take most of it off. Anything that's going to come off, it'll pretty well get it. Now the white stain, haze, that's going to be a whole nother project for another day. That's going to take a what we call tumbling, putting in like almost like a rock tumbler. But we don't have ours set up anyway right now. But and we don't like taking a lot of the time. But you can see that. Let me get it in the sun. I apologize for the sun, but see how much better that is? It was just brown rust all over it, and it takes that brown off. So,
Wow.
yeah. All right, this one here, I don't know if you remember on this one, was a black cat polish, and it had a lot of stain on the inside of that. Now that one's got a cork in there, and I'm going to try to get that out. So let's drain the water. You put a brush up inside of it and you pull, boop, it pops out of there. Okay, that's just a little trick on getting those out. Okay, now we'll use one of our brushes that'll get down inside the neck of that one. Okay, to clean the rest of that out of there. Run that in there a little bit. Okay, that gets out some of it.
Is that your favorite brush?
That's probably my favorite brush there, yeah, that big one. There's still a little bit here in the corners. If you wanted to go in there with another brush, it'll probably take that out, but that's a whole lot better than what it was, isn't it? Mm-hmm. And another real final rinse here. Alright, and it's still going to have a little bit of haze on there. Okay, I'm going to get a couple of these other ones soaking. But you can see it's not a real technical process, and like I said, we dig a lot of bottles, so we're going for speed. We're not trying to spend much time on these bottles. On a more valuable bottle, like if it's a $50 bottle or something like that, we tend to spend a little more time on those. But most of these, I take a brush, just run them down in there a little bit, and that'll get most of the stuff out of it. Alright, draining it out. While it's draining, I usually just use a brush, scrape just a little bit. Okay, rinse. Now I don't wear gloves for this part because it's already diluted considerably, so it's really not of any harm. I mean, you know, maybe my fingers are kind of toughened from it for years, but alright, this is that nice amethyst ball mason. We dug that at our dump. Isn't that cool? That's going to turn real nice. But it had some haze on here, so we'd like to get some more of that off of there.
That's definitely got a little tinge of amethyst to it already.
Yeah, it does. It's kind of nice.
Sun-colored purple. Yep. Is that a good name?
Sun-colored amethyst, yep.
Sun-colored.
Sun-colored purple.
Pretty.
And again, being careful not to stress the glass by having it too hot or too hot, you know, too hot or too cold.
Them should be the best sellers. I like them the best because it's only like time to make them that color.
Okay, and this one again had a lot of rust on the outside. Just take your pad, go for them brown spots on there. And while I'm looking for them, I just I'm rubbing it anyway in case there's any that I miss. All right, and it's not going to take everything. It's not perfect, but it saves you a lot of time and a lot of elbow grease and scrubbing when you can use a muriatic acid like that. So we get the worst of it off, and you've seen what our acid looked like, and that's after quite a few uses. So if you clean it the way we showed, and then by the time you put it in acid, you're not dirtying up your acid. Like if you didn't do that and you soaked them in there, it'd clean them, but it gets all in your acid, and then your acid's messed up, and you got to change it a lot more often. So we try to avoid that. But all right. Well, anyway, that's how the process goes for us. And, whoops. We know there's a lot of other things you can do to clean, but it works well for us. Has for 50 years. So. Anyway, I'm always open to new things too, so if any of you have suggestions and ideas, hey, we're open to those. Always willing to learn something new that helps us out. So, well, we thank you for watching. We'll probably see you in the next video. Shelley and I here, we've been doing a lot of digging, so we got a couple more videos coming out real soon, and we'll see you in the next one.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, this is after we got these cleaned. Alright, like I said, we didn't spend much time on them. Could probably get them even a little bit better. But other than the white haze that's in there, which you're not going to get out with any chemical or any other process without cleaning those, because the glass itself is actually almost eaten into on a couple of these. But other than that, though, it takes all the dark, the brown, rusty stain off of these just by that little simple process we just showed you. So anyway, I just wanted to share that with you. And Shelley and I thought, well, with our years of experience and what works for us, hey, you know, you can't argue with what works. So hey, there it is. Showing they're pretty clean. So we just want to also caution you that, you know, not to use this muriatic acid solution if you have little children that's going to be playing. Keep this 5-gallon bucket sealed and away from the rest of the home. Keep it in a place where, like in your basement or a shed or something like that. You know, I mean, common sense, okay? And like you said, don't reach your hands down into it. Always use rubber gloves, and I've never had a problem. I have actually reached into it before with my bare hands when I couldn't find some gloves, and anyway, it does burn your hands a little bit, but it didn't really hurt me like that. It wasn't like I had to go to the doctor or anything. So, but anyway, some of you may not want to use that, but you can use CLR. There's other chemicals that kind of do probably the same thing. So it's nothing big fancy. But thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.